Hello and welcome to the AssessFirst webinar. The theme of this webinar today is how to identify people with a strong potential to grow. So we're going to be looking at a candidate's technical skills, their aptitude and personality, and how that makes it possible to anticipate their ability to succeed. How do you evaluate their motivation effectively beyond a normal interview process? How do you distinguish dynamic motivation from protective motivation? How do you make sure that these are well aligned with the culture of your workplace and working conditions? And what will be the impact for your other colleague? So, first of all, who are we? My name is John Hughes. I'm the International Account Manager for AssessFirst. If you have any questions about this webinar today, you're welcome to contact me by email if you have any questions about the themes or any of the things that I've spoken about today. And AssessFirst itself as a company, I think that just as the theme of this webinar is about growth and evolution, so too has AssessFirst as a company continuously evolved and changed. AssessFirst has been in existence since 2002. It was created by David Bernard, who's a business and work psychologist, and Alexei Teplici, who is specialized in startups and different technologies. And initially, we started as a publisher of psychometric tests and personal evaluations, meaning that we provided our customers with a descriptive approach. We offered an evaluation which allows recruiters to fully understand their candidates' natural behaviors and working styles, meaning what they can do, what they want to do, their motivations, and how they will do it within the workplace. And in the last 3 to 4 years, we have been at the forefront of predictive recruitment. Due to the large amount of data we ourselves have collected from candidates and companies who have worked with us, we have moved from a descriptive approach to a predictive approach. What does that mean exactly? It means we are able to assess how the prospective candidate can succeed and thrive in a job, but as well to be happy and to outperform in their sector of activity. Currently, AssessFirst has 3,500 customers in over 30 different countries with more than 5 million evaluations completed. And we work with a large range of different companies, from Zara to Lidl to Burger King. We work with recruitment agencies such as Hayes and Morgan Phillips. Banking, we work with ING Bank. Insurance, we work with AXA Insurance. We work with Ingenico. We work with universities and public sector companies. And depending on the needs of each company, they use our predictive solutions for various different models, whether that's recruitment, internal mobility, team building, talent reviews, or personal development. With each company that we work with, we aim to look at the results obtained before using AssessFirst and afterwards, 6, 12, and 24 months down the line. It's very important for us to be able to see how using predictive recruitment can change the process for our partners. And what we have seen is that, in general, it brings a 15% rise in performance from those candidates that were recruited using the predictive model. 20% of recruitment costs are cut, and 30% of the time it takes to recruit has been reduced. Why? Because each company is seeing less candidates, but candidates that are better qualified. And also, in terms of turnover, it can be reduced to 50% because you're recruiting candidates that naturally fit into the role and who are more engaged long-term in the job. What's more, not only in terms of recruitment, but people also use AssessFirst for their internal mobility. If we want to identify within the team those people with the strongest potential to grow, we need to ask the question, what does it mean to change, to evolve, and to grow? If someone is taking on a new role in a company, what does it mean for them? It means they will be in a new environment with different tasks, different roles, and with that, it could be new colleagues, a new boss, different partners or providers. For the candidate, They have to find a new way of being, new competencies, which they didn't necessarily use in their last position. So how do we identify this in an individual? The first thing is to look at their global potential, their natural behavior and ability to change within an organization. And for that, it is their ability to move outside of their comfort zone. So if you look at this graphic, this very large red graphic, imagine that the blue is where an employee is more comfortable in his work, where he feels at home and at ease with the tasks. The red represents all that exists outside of that, the situations that they are less familiar with. What's interesting for us is to identify those people that can move in outside into the area of change. And of course, it is important for a HR manager or a manager to aid that person in the new role so that they can be at ease to experiment in a new environment. What kind of motivations do you see in prospective employees who can make this change? Well, we would say someone who likes to create new things, who goes beyond their everyday tasks, who likes meeting new people, who adapts to change, and who can work in an uncertain environment, someone also autonomous and someone who wants to have a positive impact on the world. And the opposite of this, of course, are people who work to maintain their position, to protect their position, what we would call the motivations of preservation, where that person clearly prefers defined tasks and targets, works within predefined methods, likes to be in a secure environment and likes to maintain their personal balance. This is not someone who is going to be so able to change. If we identify that desire to change, we also need to look to see if they have the ability to change. So here you can see our personality radar, which those who work with us will know. You can see in our shape evaluation. And this studies 20 different characteristic traits of a person. So which traits within those 20 do we need to identify within an employee so we can see if they have the ability to change? And what you can see here, these areas in green are the areas where we want to see someone. So someone who is open to other people's ideas, someone who demonstrates inventiveness, of course, someone who adapts to change, also someone who perseveres when confronted by obstacles and goes beyond assigned tasks, and more focuses on the positive. And then you can also see we're looking for someone who has a low score on seek stability. And when we say seek stability, more we're talking about an emotional stability. This is part of the personal balance. Someone who is open to the unexpected and not distressed by it will do better in an environment of change. And we found that those people who display these 7 characteristics are 80% more likely to adapt to change comfortably. What is also important to look at is someone's capacity to learn, and with it, their speed of execution. And at AssessFirst, with our brain test, we study 4 different areas of reasoning: the ability to analyze situations, use their skills, understand figures, and to manage the unexpected. And those people who are much more at ease, leaving their comfort zone, are those that can analyze situations and manage the unexpected. The hard skills of mathematical reasoning and using your knowledge are not the qualities essential in an employee who is ready to change and grow. To evaluate the criteria, you need to create your targets. And AssessFirst offers a solution to help you measure and evaluate your workers so you can identify those with the potential to change. So, here is an example of a recruitment campaign whereby you can create a model to detect the potential of an employee to evolve and grow along the criteria I have just outlined, taking into account motivation, personality, and reasoning. And what you can see here are all our employees who've taken the evaluation and are ranked according to our predictive formula for their ability to change. At AssessFirst, in our opinion, a ranking that is 60% or more has a very strong potential to succeed in a given role. What's also important to remember is that we don't look simply at the overall result, but we go into detail. So here's a good example of why. Here are two employees, and they both have a ranking of 60% potential to grow. But when we look at the detail of each of the criteria, there are large differences. So in green, we see the employee's natural behavior, their personality, you see with our shape test. In red, their motivation, and blue, their reasoning. If we look at the first employee, there's a strong match in terms of personality, motivation, and intellectual reasoning. Whereas the second employee has a clear ability to adapt to change in terms of behavior, 95% in green there. But in terms of motivation and ability, they're going to find it harder to change and to evolve within their configuration. So if you want to identify individuals that are well-rounded in terms of their ability to succeed in a new role, we've offered help with our magic button. Once you click on it, we will bring out for you a recommendation of those people with the ability to evolve. And of course, we will bring out those high scores. But what's more, as we go down, you will see that we still propose candidates with lower scores who overall have strong traits to succeed within evolving and changing in their company, and show the characteristic traits of someone who can succeed in a new role. There we've seen how to evaluate the potential of someone to adapt to change. But what you can also do is to look at how someone will do in a specific role. To do so, of course, you will want to analyze someone's hard skills, the competencies for the jobs. But with AssessFirst, we consider it also important to look at someone's soft skills. For us, those soft skills are the following key factors: reasoning, motivation, and personality. To analyze each of these, we have created an evaluation for each. For reasoning, we have the brain, motivation, drive, and personality, shape. And with an analysis of these soft skills, you will be able to identify the correct candidates who have the ability to move into a new role. Brain looks at their mental agility with mathematical reasoning, verbal comprehension, and abstract ideas. Drive looks at the fundamental needs of a person, what they want to do, how they want to do it, and for what reward. And shape studies someone's natural behavior and personality in the workplace. With each of these criteria, we have created a series of algorithms which allow us to understand somebody's natural talents, to fully understand who that person is. What's more, when we take those natural talents and evaluate them with our predictive models, we can identify their ability to succeed. Our predictive models also adapt to our customer needs. So you can take either our benchmark models, over 300 which exist on our platform and are mined from the data of over 5 million candidates throughout the world, or you can personalize your own models so it fits to your company's needs and culture. And the third option is what we call a talent review, where we study the population of your workforce to pick out best practice and cultural fit to create a model that is tailor-made for you. To go into detail, with our benchmark position, we have over 300 job profiles on our site, 26 different job functions in 136 sectors of activity, taken, as I said, from over 5 million different evaluations, allowing you to quickly analyze the potential of an employee for a certain job role. The second option is the personalized model, which you can create yourself according to your own needs. These are still based on our benchmark models, but will allow you to look for the profile you want. You can use our intelligent assistant, and we will give you recommendations concerning certain criteria. And thirdly, our talent review, where AssessFirst will study your key employees and pick out best practice. We will study what kind of results are obtained in terms of performance, turnover, and targets. We will create a predictive model based on the information that we have gathered specific to your company, and 12 months later, we will appraise that model to see if adjustments need to be made. Within those three different models, once you've chosen one, you can start to use our tool in terms of mobility. On our application, we have a section called Mobility. You can see it here. Once you click there, you can choose different job models. So it could be sales, sales manager, an engineer, whatever it may be. Secondly, you can pick out certain individuals in your team or a group of people. And here you can see within the different people chosen how well someone will succeed within a certain role. Again, with a ranking. And with our magic button, it will allow you to very quickly recognize who within your team best matches a certain role. What's really important for us is that everyone who takes AssessFirst evaluation feels empowered, that they get the same feedback as our recruiters. So anyone who completes our questionnaire will receive a summary that looks like this. For each evaluation, an employee or potential candidate will receive a synthesis of their skills, a talent cloud, bringing out their strong traits, their natural talents, details of how that person likes to work, how they work with others, and how they deal with stress. We give these talent tags, giving the candidate a very positive feedback concerning who they are. For drive, in green, we say what motivates a person, and in red, what demotivates them, what kind of activity that person prefers, what kind of management style is needed, and what kind of environment that person prefers to work in. And with brain, we see how someone thinks and reacts to information. So, to recap, excuse me, the first element is to identify those people in your organization with a strong potential to grow. The second is to identify the specific posts they will fill. And once you have this mobility and change in your organization, the third important point is how to transform your organization. For all employees taking on new roles, our workplaces have been constantly evolving in the last 10 to 15 years, with new technology, automation, and new ways of working. What has not changed is the challenge we all face when confronted with this change. And one of the best ways to be able to transform your company is to have people working there who are able to adapt to change. We don't all have the same competence, but as a workplace, we can focus on the people who have the natural ability to embrace change. So the question is, how can we do a survey of the resources and talent within your company? At AssessFirst, we have developed a tool that we call the CannonMapper, which means you can take individuals or a team of people, just as before, and look at their natural working style within 12 different areas of work. And if you were to take the entire company, you can see the general trend within your workplace. So when you enter our platform, again, you click on CannonMapper. You can choose to add single people or a whole group, and you can see the working style of a group of individuals within 12 different areas, whether that be their management style, their work ethic, their creative potential, their social approach, and you can see the overall trend within a group of where that group of people sit. And it's for you to decide whether you want to reproduce or complement the general trend within a group with different types of profiles. To conclude, currently we all work in an environment which is unstable, which can change, which can move and evolve constantly. It's what's known under the acronym VUCA, signifying volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. The changing nature of our job means we all need to change our working styles on an individual basis. And there are general factors which dictate to us our changing working styles. And that evolution depends on specific jobs in an individual context. But we would say it's always important to keep an eye on the configuration and style of your global talents. So thanks very much for listening to this webinar. That's everything I wanted to talk about today. I hope everyone found it interesting. And as I said, if you have any questions, you're welcome to write to me now. You can also see my contact details there. So if later you have certain questions that you want to ask, but right now I'll just wait to see whether any of the people here have any questions concerning some of the themes that I've gone through in terms of mobility and in terms of what AssessFirst's platform can do. Okay, I have a question here from Ian Hamilton, and he says, how long do the tests take to sit? So as I went through before, there are 3 different evaluations. There's shape, which talks about how someone works, how they like to work with others, and how they deal with stress. There's drive, which is looking at motivation, how someone wants to do something, what kind of environment, what they want to do it for, what reward. And there's brain, which is the mental agility test. Both shape and drive take about 10 minutes to complete. And brain takes a little longer, depending on the person. It sort of takes 15 to 20 minutes. We have different customers who use them in different ways. So some people will just use shape, and then they'll decide to see a candidate and interview them, and then ask them to do drive and motivate and drive and brain afterwards. Or some people just do shape and brain, and then there are different configurations of doing it. We would always recommend, as soon as you're sort of doing predictive recruitment and using our predictive tools there, not just prediction, but our CannonMapper and mobility, that the results we can give in terms of predictive results are always far more accurate if someone's taking all 3 evaluations than if they just took 1 or 2. I have another question here, which is, do you norm the data across a specific role or across all roles? If I understand the question correctly, you're asking, how is the data collected? And that's very much, as I mentioned before, we have those 300 different positions, there's over 300 in fact, which are on our platform, which is very much taken from the 5 million different people who've taken our evaluations and the customers that we work with. And we've looked basically at each job position that they've said, and then the characteristic traits of those people, and we pulled out the main, what we consider to be the most important characteristic traits to succeed in that job. So and that's for each specific job. It's not normalized across all roles. They're specific for each job. I have another question here as well. which says the magic button. How does it work? Again, the magic button works. It works in terms of it being sort of a recommendation for you. So it's a recommendation as to what we consider to be people who've done the evaluation that have an overall fit that works with that criteria that you're looking for. And as I showed before, we'll of course pull out people with very, very high scores. So from that 60% score and onwards, of course, someone who's got 80, 85, 90, 95%, we're going to recommend that you take a look at. But we're also going to point out to you some people at 62, some people at 67, where we can see that throughout the three tests, they're quite evenly balanced, and they have a strong potential to do well in the job. The evaluation is a tool. It's a tool to aid you to see people, and it's very important that we're not actually cloning people so that they're all exactly the same, but that we are bringing out people with different scores. But we're still saying, look, they have a real potential to do well in this position, and it's definitely worth seeing them for an interview. Let's have a look at any other questions. There's another question here, which is, what is the success rate of your solution? I guess, again, that's sort of the data that we have from this is what I mentioned before in that earlier slide. So from the companies we've worked with, and we've studied this very closely, is that I'll go through those statistics one more time, is that in general, it brings a 15% rise in performance, 20% of recruitment costs are cut, 30% of the time it takes to recruit, and minus 50% in terms of turnover, in terms of people leaving the company after they've taken the job, and that's simply because if you're finding a person that is suited and happy to do the job, of course they're likely to stay. Of course they're likely to perform better for you. And we work with certain companies. I mean, for example, less to do with mobility, but to do with recruitment. We work with some companies, for example, which is exactly what we want to see at AssessFirst, who are recruiting solely from using our tool and not looking at CVs at all. And again, those statistics have come through for us. They're for sales positions where the people that they are recruiting by using AssessFirst are staying longer, are performing better in terms of sales, because in terms of their personality and motivation, they're much more suited to the job than the way they were doing it through traditional recruitment. Let me have a look if there's any other questions. I can't see any others there. I want to thank everybody who's taken part in the webinar, and we'll probably do one again in July. I look forward to people joining me then, and thank you very much for being here with AssessFirst, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Thanks.